Haunting images of an extraordinary feat of exploration, Captain Robert Scott's attempt to reach the South Pole first. The paintings were the work of Scott's right-hand man, Edward Wilson, doctor, scientist and artist. Now his work has been published for the first time in a book by his great-nephew, David Wilson from Kent.
Real explorers were about bringing back records and scientific specimens and so on. They didn't just dash from one place to another. And so it was important that they had somebody like a shipboard artist aboard. And my great-uncle would spend hours and hours drawing and painting the new species that they found and the new landscapes that they encountered.
Scott's team were beaten to the pole by a Norwegian expedition. On their return journey, they perished through exhaustion, starvation and extreme cold. As he lay dying, Captain Scott wrote to his wife about their son. He said, "Make the boy interested in nature if you can. It's better than games." His son, of course, was Peter Scott, who went on to become the founding father of wildlife conservation. Sir Peter established the Wildfowl and Wetland Trust, helping save species like the Hawaiian goose from extinction. This centre at Arundel in Sussex is one of a network he set up across the country.
The mission statement of the Trust was to save wetlands for wildlife and people, and our role here is to help people understand the value of wetlands and to inspire them to want to learn more and then to take care of them for the future.
Today, conservationists are harnessing satellite navigation to learn more about wildlife and how to protect it, monitoring ducks and geese which stream into our region to spend the winter.
They're flying across the North Sea to places like this, Buick swans coming from the Arctic, and we're trying to track them using satellite transmitters and GPS transmitters to work out what their flight lines are so that we can help planners who are dealing with shipping lanes and wind farms to basically put infrastructure in places that won't do any harm to wildlife.
Modern explorers too rely on GPS navigation. 100 years ago, Captain Scott and his men reached the South Pole with little more than a sundial and a theodolite. Their extraordinary achievement remains an inspiration to scientists and naturalists. Malcolm Shaw for Reardon Tonight.
Well, I am delighted to say we are joined by Sir David Attenborough. Thank you so much for joining us. What would you say is the importance of Scott's expedition in relation to science?
Well, of course, it was a first attempt. He brought back the first samples of rocks from the heart of the continent, and it was the beginning. Of course, somebody else would have done it eventually, and now we know a very great deal of what's in the centre of the continent, lying under all that ice. And Scott was the first person to show us.
And what of Edward Wilson, whose artwork so inspired Scott and is heavily featured, of course, in this excellent book? What, in fact, was his legacy to conservation?
Oh, I suppose his personality, really. I mean, he was a very good ornithologist, a very good naturalist. His drawings that are in this book are very beautiful indeed. And he had, but he had the humility in the face of huge hardships. He spent his life in looking at the natural world and trying to understand it. And the example of his dedication is a great inspiration to anybody, but also a strength of character. One of the things in this book is lots of beautiful drawings of birds, but there's also just one little sketch that he made when he got to the South Pole and discovered that Amundsen had got there first. I mean, the desperation that they must have felt must have been colossal, and yet he had the strength of character to draw this little intimate drawing of one of skis from Amundsen with the Norwegian flag on it at the moment which must have been the most desperate in his life.
And very quickly, your series Frozen Planet is being broadcast at the moment, absolutely marvellous. Briefly, does Antarctica still have things to tell us, to teach us?
Oh yes, there's a great deal, and of great importance too. What happens in the Antarctic is going to affect the rest of the world.
Sir David, a joy to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.